The Last Mountain Bird Observatory is a banding station on the eastern shores of Last Mountain Lake towards the northern tip. We're located completely within the Last Mountain Regional Park and surrounded by the National Wildlife Area. We're one of the only stations in Canada that band boreal birds in the prairies. We capture migrating songbirds and we put small bands on them. The bands we use are made of aluminum. They all have a 9-digit number though, so if we ever catch the bird again, we can look up that number and it will tell us when and where the bird was banded and all the information that was collected on it. Alan Smith with the Canadian Wildlife Service founded the station in 1989. Part of his job was trying to get an idea of population sizes of boreal breeding warblers, and so he had banded throughout the National Wildlife Area, trying to find a good place to set up and band, and the regional park was kind of a perfect setup.
We had to find a place that would catch a lot of birds, and this turned out to be a great place to catch birds as they were migrating north and south across the prairie. The trees planted here are in rows. That makes it really good for putting up nest nets which run along the rows. Also, the lake acts like a barrier. Birds migrating, when they hit the lake, they tend to follow the lake along the shore, and that's why they're concentrated on the shore of Last Mountain Lake. It's part of a network of stations all across Canada, and the idea is to band birds all across Canada and see how their numbers change and how they migrate. When we started banding here, we banded out the tailgate of a truck. And then we got a small trailer. And then a few years later, we got a big trailer, and we used that big trailer for about 20 years.
It was an old trailer home from the 70s, and it was definitely showing its age. We were overdue for a new station.
The people running it had to stay in tents outside. It was to a point where we could not use it anymore, so we needed something. The new station was one that we were able to create through some assistance from the estate of Bill and Joyce Anaka, who provided funds, and also from Environment Canada, who also invested in this, and some other private donations.
This new building will allow us to continue, hopefully for another 35 years.
It's really important that we band birds for a long time because of the natural fluctuations in numbers. We need a long time span to tease out trends in numbers. We've banded over 30 years. We're starting to see what species are going up and what species are going down. Hopefully we can figure out why. Species that seem to have declined are the ones that like certain types of habitat in the north. For instance, birds that tend to like mature woodlands seem to be declining, whereas species that like scrub forests and new growth seem to be increasing, and that ties in with land use changes in the boreal forest, more logging, more fires, and so that's reflected in the birds that we catch here.
This is one of our mist nets. We have 13 of them set up across the park, and we'll check them every 30 minutes for birds. We have a bird right here. This is a northern house wren. They are very common in the park, especially around this net where it's really nice and thick. This is really their preferred habitat. So I'm gonna start taking this bird out of the net, and the first thing I do is I make sure I'm on the same side that the bird is in. And I do that by checking whether I can see their belly and their butt. And I use what's called body grasp technique. So I'm gonna kind of use the tips of my fingers and grab him, almost like a little eraser. I'm gonna pull him out of the net to kind of create a bit of tension. And he's not too tangled, so I'm putting him into bander's grip right away. He's going to complain about this. Like I said, this is a scary experience for the birds, but it's just over his head a little bit. This is a new capture. He doesn't have any bands on. I'll grab one of our bags. I'll put him in. Now we'll take this guy back to the station and band him. I'm going to just put him into this container so that we can weigh everything together. Then I zero out the scale, and then when I put the bag back in, it does the math for me and it will give me the bird's weight. So this was our northern house wren. And it weighs 9.8 grams. So they're a very small songbird. And then I'm going to use a band size 0. You can kind of think of band size like shoe size. We want the band to fit loosely around the bird's leg, but not so loose that it will come up over the bird's foot. So I'm going to just open up the band. Going to grab my pliers. And I will hold bird's leg right here. I'll turn the pliers so I can kind of see. I'll close the band. And then the band can move freely. And it's not going to come up over his foot, and it's not going to rub his leg. So for aging the bird, we're going to open up the wing and look for molt limits. Generally, what we're going to see in a house wren is a difference between the primary coverts here and between the greater coverts here. So between this and this. So wrens can be a little bit tricky. They're just kind of brown and really barred. And so these white tips might be helpful, and that kind of makes me lean towards an older bird, so an after second year. And if I look at the tail, it's pretty ratty, but that makes sense. These birds spend a lot of time in the bush. Their feathers are gonna get a bit beat up. But I'm gonna go with a second year bird for this one. Not seeing a limit. With wrens, you can't tell if it's male or female. Going to take a wing. So I kind of scoop the wing with the ruler. And I make sure the wing is relaxed. 51 wing. The next thing I'm going to do is check for fat, and so the bird's fat will be right up here at the base of its throat, and to check, I have to blow on the bird. So this bird has no fat and no breeding characteristics right now. And that makes sense. It's a local bird. It's probably not going to be putting on a bunch of fat because it's not going to be actively migrating. We've collected all the data that we need on this wren, so we're going just to release the bird through the tube so that it can continue on what it was doing before. Conserving the environment is important because we are a part of that environment. And birds are a part of that as well, and they act as really good indicators of ecosystem health.
They're so responsive to environmental change. We can look at the broader picture of what's happening to the world as reflected by the changes in bird numbers.
Everybody has their own opinion about nature, but I think when we think long and hard about it, we all realize that it has an importance in our life.
We like to think we create a bond between the bird and people. Most people just see birds at a distance. To see them in the hand, see how small they are. You can imagine a bird that size are able to survive long journeys and come back to the same spot year after year. It's quite amazing.
If you want to learn more about Last Mountain Bird Observatory or Nature Saskatchewan, you can visit us here at the station or on our website or on our social media. We can't wait to see you here.
There's a story to tell in every community. What should we feature next on maxTV Local? Let us know at SaskTel.com/local.